Hello, friends, and welcome to Adventures in Pixieland. My name's Amy. I'm an ordained minister, and we're in Bible study. We're in the NIV. We are in Joshua chapter 6. And where we left off in chapter 5, the commander of the Lord's army, so to me, Michael, the Archangel Michael, has shown up for duty. And he told Joshua to take off his sandals because the land he's standing on is holy. Now Jericho was tightly shut up because of the Israelites. No one went out and no one came in. So, before we go any further, this just as a reminder, the area surrounding the Dead Sea is really basically giant mountains of salt. That's why nothing can live there. That's why it's the salt sea. That's why, so there's pockets of natural gas. So now we're back to that. They could have the explosions of upward of, anything and make it spark. And then you'd have just burning of pockets of stuff. So again, with the commandment to take off the sandals. So, verse 2. Then the Lord said to Joshua, "See, I have delivered Jericho into your hands, along with its king and its fighting men. March around the city once with all the armed men. Do this for 6 days. Have 7 priests carry trumpets of ram's horns in front of the ark. On the 7th day, march around the city 7 times, with the priests blowing the trumpets. When you hear them sound a long blast on the trumpets, have the people give a loud shout. Then the wall of the city will collapse, and the people will go up, every man straight in." Okay. So Joshua, son of Nun, called the priests and said to them, "Take the ark of the covenant of the Lord and have 7 priests carry trumpets in front of it." And he ordered the people, "Advance, march around the city with the armed guard going ahead of the ark of the covenant." When Joshua had spoken to the people, the 7 priests carrying the 7 trumpets before the Lord went forward, blowing their trumpets, and the ark of the Lord's covenant followed them. The armed guards marched ahead of the priests, who blew the trumpets, and the rear guard followed the ark. At this time, the trumpets were sounding. But Joshua had commanded the people, "Do not give a war cry. Do not raise your voices. Do not say a word until the day I tell you to shout. Then shout." So he had the ark of the Lord carried around the city, circling at once, and then returning it to camp, and spent the night there. Joshua got up early the next morning, and the priests took the ark of the covenant, and 7 priests carrying the 7 trumpets went around, marching before the ark of the Lord, blowing the trumpets. The armed men went behind them, and the rear guard followed the ark of the Lord while the trumpets kept sounding. So on the 2nd day, they marched around the city once and returned to camp. They did this for 6 days. On the 7th day, they got up on that day. They got up at daybreak. And marched around the city 7 times in the same manner, except on that day they circled the city 7 times. On the 7th time around, the priests sounded a trumpet blast. Joshua commanded the people, "Shout, for the Lord has given you the city. The city and all that is in it are to be devoted." I see. That's the irrevocably given over to the Lord, usually by totally destroying the burnt offering. The city and all that is in it are to be devoted to the Lord. Only Rahab the prostitute or innkeeper, because I don't know if they want to be insulting or not, and all who are with her in her house shall be spared, because she hid the spies we sent. But keep away from the devoted things, so that you will not bring about your own destruction by taking any of them. Otherwise, you will make the camp of Israel liable to destruction and bring trouble on it. All the silver and gold and articles of bronze and iron that are sacred, are sacred to the Lord, and must go into his treasury. When the trumpet sounded, the people shouted, and at the sound of the trumpet, when the people gave a loud shout, the wall collapsed, so that every man charged straight in, and they took the city. They devoted the city to the Lord and destroyed it with sword, every living thing in it, men and women, young and old, cattle, sheep, and donkeys. Joshua said to the 2 men who had spied out the land, "Go to the prostitute's house and bring her out, and all who belong to her, in accordance with your oath to her." So the young men who had done the spying went in and brought out Rahab, her family, and her mother and father and mother and brothers, and all who belonged to her. They brought out her entire family and put them in a place outside of the camp of Israel. They burned the whole city and everything in it, and they put the silver, gold, and articles of bronze and iron into the treasury of the house lords. But Joshua spared Rahab the prostitute and her family and all who belonged to her, because, because she had hid the men Joshua had sent as spies to Jericho, and she lives among the Israelites to this day. Well, probably not to this day, because probably to this day not alive anymore. At that time, Joshua pronounced this solemn oath: "Cursed before the Lord is the man who undertakes to rebuild this city, Jericho. At the cost of his firstborn son will he lay the foundations. At the cost of his youngest will he set up its gates." So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame spread throughout the land. So now people were afraid of Joshua the way they used to be afraid of Moses. So, until the next video, friends.